In many ways, the organizing in Grand Rapids around LGBT issues influenced and has been influenced by what was happening at Grand Valley State University. Organizing around LGBT issues began in the 1970s when the school was called Grand Valley State Colleges. Milt Ford remembers some of the early evidence of organizing around LGBT issues.
When I came to Grand Valley in 1973, I saw a sign posted for a meeting of the Gay Alliance. And later, through Jim Toy at the University of Michigan, I found he sent me a Lanthorn announcement, I think that dated back to 1972. Come have a conversation with a real live homosexual at this assigned meeting place at Grand Valley. So there was something. It was way underground, but there was already people reaching toward each other and toward community and trying to have a life and identity at campus.
In 1976, the Women, World, and Wonder academic program in Thomas Jefferson College featured strong women speakers and included lesbian voices in their programming. These events set the tone for a very innovative experimental college. When the college closed in 1979, it put a damper on an open and accepting climate. It wasn't until the 1990s that more formal organizing by LGBT students, faculty, and staff began. Milt Ford speaks about those groups.
About 20 years ago, Gloria Tate established the Allies and Advocates. And Allies and Advocates is an organization of faculty and staff to train faculty and staff to be aware of student needs and to be comfortable with students if they would come to them with an LGBT question. And that's still an ongoing, very active organization. And about the same time, the student organization Out and About was formed. And for a long time, Out and About was the major voice at Grand Valley for LGBT, supported in very real terms, but not in an ongoing institutionalized way by allies and advocates. Out and About was the every week, every occasion presence of LGBT at Grand Valley.
In the 1990s, there was also a climate study conducted on campus, which led to the creation of a task force to explore gay, lesbian, and bisexual issues. Wendy Wenner talks about what happened at that time.
After the climate study, it came out that there were issues. And so then we had a task force, and so Kim and I, and I don't know if Milt, I think Milt was on it, and a bunch of people were on this task force. And so we had a lot of conversation. There was a lot of, the task force came up with a whole lot of, what do you call it? Not exactly demands, but things that they thought should happen at Grand Valley, including partner benefits and more curriculum and, a whole lot of things like that. And we spent quite a lot of time talking with the president about that kind of thing. And, strategizing among ourselves as well. It's just to think about, how can we move this off the, it didn't feel safe for people. And people were very careful about what they let other people know. So one day we were all at the meeting. I bet you 2/3 of the committee, it was a big committee, filled up the whole boardroom. 2/3 of the committee were LGBT folks. And we were meeting with the president to talk about the task force, and that's when he said, there really aren't any LGBT people here, so why are we worrying about this? And nobody said anything. I mean, we just sat there and looked at each other. But afterwards, we met outside the office, and we said, this is ridiculous. I mean, the students had Out and About, so they already had a group, and we were completely secret. And so we met afterwards, and we said, we need to invite him to a meeting off campus where we can talk with him and tell him, that's not really true, and it may appear that way, and it appears that way probably because we're afraid to say anything.
Cindy Mader also remembers the creation of this task force.
One day, I got a call from the president's office. I mean, even then, I was low profile. I mean, I'm not a flaunted person. But a call from the president's office asking if I would co-chair an advisory committee for the president on gay and lesbian issues. And I thought, how does he know? How do they know? Well, you know, that answer now is kind of self-evident. But at any rate, to my memory, that was the first formal move that was taken at Grand Valley. From that, and it was a rather large committee, very representative of the whole college, and I believe a sincere effort for the president's office to get a handle on what's going on in this community, because it was not a silent issue by that time. So wide representation, and a formal report was issued from the committee, probably a 20-page report with many, many recommendations. After a year or two, I believe the committee was functioning.
It was at this time that the first effort to get domestic partner benefits took place. Kim Ranger spoke about that effort in the mid-90s.
Actually, the University Academic Senate asked me to be on the Domestic Partner Benefit Task Force because I knew I was really interested, and I'd been working on things kind of behind the scenes with other people for a long time. Yeah.
And why do you think it didn't pass the first, in the first round?
Well, someone leaked it to the media. And if the president had had his way, my understanding is that things would have quietly come together with the board and they would have quietly passed it without anybody sort of being the wiser and keeping it quiet from the big donors. But once it was out in the media, then the big donors came down and essentially said, right, you do this and we're withdrawing our support.
Wendy Wenner also talked about why domestic partner benefits were defeated at that time.
Yeah, what happened was, it was in the paper, and then there was pressure from, I don't know who, but there was pressure from some donors and other people. We were building, the ironies of things. I was the chair of the building of the health profession building committee.
On Michigan.
On Michigan.
Right.
So I was leading that committee. We were designing this building, $54 million building, all the kind of stuff. We were raising money. The state was paying for part of it. We were raising money. I don't know what happened exactly, but whatever happened in the conversation, it threatened that building because they were going to either take their money back or I don't know what was. I don't know the facts. I just know that that building was at issue, and he said, so when we did it, and then there was pressure, and then it was in the news. Somebody leaked it to the newspaper. And so it came out before, I think Grand Valley was ready to do its own proactive, and it backfired. And he withdrew it, and he said to us, and I was at the meeting. I don't know who else. He said to us, I couldn't do it because it wasn't in the best interest of the university.
But then we had the same-sex benefits issue that went on for years, and was really demoralizing and disappointing. We'd gotten, I think Wendy probably mentioned, we'd actually been told we were going to get same-sex benefits, and then apparently one of the contributors, there was an article in the Grand Rapids Press, and when Peter Cook decided to withhold his $10 million that he was going to give to build the health sciences building downtown, and so that was that. Now, I still remember Pat Old, who was the vice president at the time, coming over to my office and telling me we were not going to get same-sex benefits, and I just burst into tears. I couldn't believe it. Wendy and I had met with board members. We had had conversation after conversation. They seemed sympathetic, and then it fell through. It was a really terrible time. It really was. It was awful. It was my low point at Grand Valley.
A scholarship fund was created in 2001 as a way to create something positive after the domestic partner benefits defeat. Wendy Wenner talked about how the scholarship fund came about.
I mean, we talked a lot about, if we have money, if we had money, we would donate it, then, or try to change something, or name something the Wendy Wenner scholarship building something, which we later developed into the LGBT scholarship, which was, and because a lot of people said we're not giving money to Grand Valley anymore. Then they have the faculty staff campaign and things that people said we're not giving to them anymore. We don't have the power of our money, but we can take our money back. And I wrote to development and said, that's it. I gave quite a bit of money, and I just said I'm not giving to you anymore until we figure this out, because this is too painful. Then we started the LGBT scholarship. It was the fastest growing scholarship at Grand Valley ever. It's just like whoosh, now we have, because people put their money there. They wanted to be able to give, but they wanted to make a statement about it.
However, the effort to get domestic partner benefits did not dawn. There was a second attempt to gain these benefits in 2003, when Mark Murray was president of the university. In that year, the Faculty Senate also issued a report that recommended domestic partner benefits be implemented, but this recommendation was shut down by President Murray. The next effort to get domestic partner benefits came when the Faculty and Staff Association was created. Wendy Wenner talks about that entity.
So then we were meeting, and we talked about it. We said that we need to have an association. We need to do something. We need to be more public, and that's when the Faculty Staff Association really got started. Is we just decided this can't keep going like this. The students don't have anybody to look to, and we're not public enough. We had, I think Kim and a couple other people were on the website as contact people, but there wasn't a group or anything like that.
Obtaining the domestic partner benefits was largely due to the efforts of the Faculty and Staff Association, which was a relatively new organization developed to achieve those benefits and to work in an ongoing way on making Grand Valley a good place to be a faculty and staff member.
The creation of the Faculty and Staff Association gave the LGBT community on campus a voice for pushing for more rights, and eventually led to the university finally adopting domestic partner benefits in 2008. Cindy Mader talked about the significance of these changes over the years for faculty, staff, and students.
Well, as far as faculty and staff, the biggest impact has been the ability to be open, just totally. It's not even a topic of conversation anymore. The second big thing for faculty and staff was how supported we were by the Academic Senate, which represents the entire faculty. Also by staff associations. Everybody was backing the quest for domestic partner benefits. For students, I would say the biggest change is the existence of the LGBT Resource Center. That was a long time coming, we joke, for about 3 years. That was one of the recommendations of that early advisory committee to the president, was that there be a center. And for a long time, the center was 2 bookshelves over in the student union and an email or a phone number to call. But the existence of the formal LGBT Resource Center is a sea change. It really is. First of all, the director has, the former director and the current director have been just gangbusters.
A recent student also talked about the benefits of having the LGBT Resource Center on campus. This is what Eva Jensen had to say.
I think it's very important because I think that there are not only educational activities that happen with the Resource Center there that not only LGBT students, but just students in general will go to. I think that those are really important. I went to one that was on bisexual stereotypes, and there were a lot of people there, and I think that the students really gained a lot from that. But I think that it is important to have those groups be visible, because as a freshman coming into a school, you're looking for your group or people that might identify similar to you, and
it's good to have those groups very visible.
There is still work to be done on campus on behalf of LGBT rights. Some students organized around gender-neutral housing in the spring of 2011.
The way that the current housing selection process goes or whatever is that they allow students to self-report their gender, and then they do it based on self or like same gender assignments. And so that means 2 self-identified females living together and 2 self-identified males living together. Gender-neutral housing, as opposed, conversely, is where gender is irrelevant when it comes to selecting a roommate. Maybe it's not the most important factor, or perhaps like it's just irrelevant, it doesn't matter.
I would also say that it supports safety. Students should be able to feel safe in their home, and when they come to their home and they're faced with homophobic or transphobic remarks, that's not really acceptable. Students such as Tyler Clementi from Rutgers, he had a homophobic roommate, and it led to his suicide, sadly. And Rutgers saw this as a problem, and they instilled gender-neutral housing on their campus. And we hope that Grand Valley would do the same to promote equality and equity for all of its students.
In September of 2011, the student effort paid off, and Grand Valley State University now has a gender-neutral housing policy.